Webcast. Empower women. Welcome. We are so excited to have every single one of you here. This is our very first event, and we have an incredible lineup of speakers for you. We have a surprise speaker, and we even have a big announcement for you. We hope you stay with us through the whole thing because you will not want to miss 1 second of this amazing event. We have been at the forefront of the pro-life movement in Washington State for years, and we are once again going to be at the forefront of the new pro-life movement. And to tell you even more about that and our history is our own Executive Director, Esther Ripplinger.
Thank you, Sarah. You know, as Executive Director of Human Life of Washington, I've studied about the history in the past 50 years of this organization, and I've talked to several people around the state, people who were there at that time when we were just getting started. So this is our 50th anniversary, and let me tell you, it's really been remarkable to see how we were actually pioneers then with a brand new message, and I'll talk about that, but we're also here in the same boat with a new message 50 years later, again, pioneering a new concept. So we're going to talk about that at this webcast today, and this is exciting. Thank you all for joining us. And so pioneers then, what is that? Before Roe v. Wade in 1973, we actually gathered people in 1970 and then formed in 1971 officially. But we gathered people who were like-minded, who could roll up their sleeves and start to address, start to fight, if you will, Referendum 20, which at that time it was a big threat. And our own people who agreed to help us did not think that abortion, something horrible like abortion, could actually pass in Washington State. Sadly, Referendum 20 did pass by a vote of the people, and Washington State became the first state in the entire country to legalize abortion. And that is very sad. So the people who were helping us, they tried to do what they could, but they didn't even think that it could possibly happen. But Human Life of Washington, we were there with a new message, and we were pioneering that message. Today, the new message looks a little bit different because we're now at 62 million abortions later, and so we understand how that has played out and how that has affected our marriages and our families and extended family and society. And so most people, a lot of people I should say, in the pro-life movement do not understand or do not perceive the scope of the problem. And so we're here to explain about a new message, and that is there is a new pro-life movement which is, you know, before us, and how we should respond. That's something that we'll talk about a little bit in this broadcast. We are really going to scratch the surface because there's so much more. But please know that when we continue this, we're kind of launching a new department, if you will, in a new way and with more emphasis. And so please watch for future broadcasts where we can go a little bit more in depth. So, you know, again, we're pioneers then and we're pioneers now, and we do have a giant mountain range in the way of Washington State, but we are becoming one powerful voice, uniting for life. And, you know, we have faith that moves mountains. And I love that. So this is great what God is doing. And we thank you for joining us in this webcast today. And with that, take it away, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. That is so exciting to know that we were pioneers then and we are still pioneers now because, as you mentioned, over 62 million abortions later, we need to do something different. You know, if you try to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. And we are not going to help everyone if we keep doing it the same way. So we're doing things differently. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that we're equipping people with the knowledge, with the education, with the skills to really address the root of the issue that is abortion that we're facing today in our nation and our society. And to talk about that, we have an incredible woman who is one of our incredible CareNet Associates in King County, and she is going to talk to us about the staggering truth of abortion in the church. Now, I know not everybody here might be a member of the Judeo-Christian faith, but just so you know, most women who have abortions identify with that worldview. And so chances are a lot of the people who are dealing with abortion or have had one already are in fact in the church. So it's important for us to realize that and come to grips with it. And so I'd like to introduce you to Kelly Bilko. She is the director of King County's Healing the Tide pregnancy loss program at CareNet of Puget Sound. CareNet of Puget Sound has 8 medical pregnancy centers throughout Pierce and King County. 2 are mobile medical units. She has been involved in the pro-life community since 2007, serving in development, community, and church relations with the Life Choices and CareNet of Puget Sound. Kelly is passionate to see men and women heal and connect them back to their great purpose, as is found in Romans 8:28, which that's one of my very favorite verses, says that God works all things together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his plan and purpose. Welcome, Kelly.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. It is such an honor to work with Human Life of Washington. And I just want to give a shout out to Esther and say thank you for organizing this webinar. I remember the first time that I walked into the Human Life of Washington office when it was in Bellevue years ago and thinking, wow, this is so amazing that there's a hub, for the pro-life community in Washington state of all places. And, with the changes that are happening with technology and just unifying the industry, I just think it's going to be a great partnership. We're seeing so many, healing ministries that are popping up on the internet that are linking people back into their own communities for healing much quicker. And so I think it's a great victory for Washington State for the pro-life, healing ministry movement. So thank you again, Esther. In saying that, I just wanted to emphasize, though, that we still have a huge need for facilitators. We have a shortage. And, if you have any type of redemption story, as we all do as Christians, and you're compassionate and you're feeling called at all into this ministry, we would love to talk to you. And Esther can get you plugged in, to the closest healing ministry in your area. But you don't have to have had an abortion. In the past, there was a myth in our industry that you had to have had an abortion in order to work with someone in a healing group, and it simply isn't true. In fact, we're finding that it's actually really beneficial to have someone there who hasn't, who can just, give that extra grace and understanding and non-judgmental grace towards the client to just free that person up to move, past that fear and share their secret and just change that whole culture and share the truth, how abortion hurts people. And 50% of women who have had an abortion go on to have a second abortion, and we want to stop that. And it hurts men and women and families and children, and it hurts children who are being parented by someone who's had an abortion, who hasn't been freed up from some of that pain and that fear. That there's just so many side effects that happen after someone has had trauma like that can affect everything in every aspect of their life. So if you're feeling called to this at all, reach out to Esther. She can put you in touch with us. And we are just so thankful again, Esther, for you coordinating this webinar. And I know it's been a lot of hard work, and so kudos to you. And so everyone have a great evening, and thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Kelly. What a great message, and a message of encouragement. And also, Kelly did such a great job. She pointed out the need. There is a shortage of abortion recovery healers in the state, and I would also say our country. So even if you're not in the state of Washington, maybe you're in a different state and watching this, there is a need for you, and you don't have to have had an abortion to be a compassionate listening ear and someone who is there as a support to take someone else through their journey. And I love how also Kelly pointed out the ripple effect of abortion, not just for the woman and the man who went through that, but also the subsequent children who come and are part of a family with a mom or a dad who went through an abortion themselves. So many ramifications. And so I would like to introduce you to another incredible woman who will also share more staggering truth, more about that staggering truth of abortion in the church. And this is Neela Lee. Neela Lee is the community engagement specialist at CareNet of Puget Sound in the Pierce County area. In this role, she networks with people and organizations that serve the communities in the cities of the CareNet of Puget Sound. The networking focus allows for CareNet to serve more families in need through awareness and access of services across the region. Additionally, she has spent many years volunteering in Healing Tide, the abortion recovery arm of CareNet. This frontline activity has given her access to a variety of women in unique circumstances who have had an abortion in their life journey. These roles have given her unique access to the hearts of individuals in a crucial season of their lives. With a deep commitment to Jesus and the principles of Scripture, she is committed to transformational moments that give hope and empowerment for choices that align with the wisdom of God. Welcome, Neela.
Hello. Thank you for investing your time to see what is taking place in the Abundant Life movement in Washington State. My name is Neela, and I am the Community Engagement Specialist at CareNet of Puget Sound, a network of pregnancy centers in many cities across Western Washington. I'm also a volunteer at Healing Tide, the abortion recovery arm of CareNet. Today, I am honored to partner with Save One Abortion Recovery and Human Life of Washington, our gracious hosts who exist to serve, unify, and support the pro-life movement in this state. In the next couple of minutes, we are going to look at the theme, the staggering truth of abortion in the church. There's research that indicates that up to 76% of women who have had an abortion in the United States identify with the Christian faith. In a specific study done by Lifeway Research, sponsored by CareNet, we see some very specific information. The objective of this study was to, number one, measure the percentage of women who have had an abortion that were actually church attenders, either monthly or more frequently at the time of choosing one of their abortions. And the second objective was to understand their perspective and experience inside of the church. Was the local church helpful, open, and competent? I'm going to read just a couple of the findings. There's a long report at lifeway.com, and this right here, I just want to highlight a couple of the points. A total of 43% of women who have had an abortion were attending a Christian church once a month or more at the time of their abortion. 76% of the women indicate local churches had no influence on their decision to terminate their pregnancy. When asked about their perception of the church, 64% agree that church members were more likely to gossip about women considering an abortion than to help her understand her options. And twice as many women would not recommend to someone close to them that they discuss their decision regarding an unplanned pregnancy with someone at the local church. Now, as we look at this information, I think, we can discount it. We know that as we have helped people who are in crisis or people that are coming for support in crucial decisions that they're making, that maybe they can feel judgment when that's not what we're conveying. But before we discount their experience and their honest answers, I think that these details give us some insight into how people perceive the church. And we want to ask the question, how do we grow in our culture and in our ability to convey both competence and compassion to those who are in crucial decision-making moments of their life? As you continue to watch this webcast, you are going to learn how to foster renewal of faith, hope, love, and joy in those that are facing challenges around you. You're going to learn how gracious speech and effective approaches to assist them. And in the next couple of minutes in this segment, I want to leave you with just a couple of questions for you to prayerfully contemplate and answer for yourselves. Because we are a people that believe in morality, and we are a people that believe in the sanctity of human life. Sometimes we can lean more heavily in one direction than the other when we seek to help people. I think a great example of a perfect response is Jesus in John chapter 8, when a group of men caught a woman in an immoral situation. She was caught in the act of adultery. They dragged her into the temple where Jesus was teaching, and they threw her down at his feet, and they said, "What do you think about this?" Jesus, in his wisdom, did not respond defensively or even quickly. And based on his response, the men that were there began walking away one by one until it was just him and her. And when he looked at her, he said, "Woman, is there anyone here left to condemn you?" And the woman said, "No one." Jesus' response is so insightful for us. He says, "Then neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." This is really important because this gives us the perfect insight into Jesus' mindset and heart towards this woman. He was neither going to compromise, nor was he going to condemn. He was going to be able to indicate that what she was living in was not what he had planned for her. And he did not encourage her to stay in that lifestyle, but to completely change. And at the same time, he laid no condemnation on her. He revealed a very important insight about his identity to her when he said these words, "Go and sin no more. I am the light of the world. Those who walk in darkness cannot follow me. They cannot see, but I am the light of life." As we are those who want to be people that of no compromise, where we want to see that we and the people around us live moral lives, we also need to engage the ability to see people with the proper eyes so that we can be those that do not condemn, but actually convict and release people into a life that is best for them. And this, of course, always takes place from the inside out. And so the questions that I leave for you today to prayerfully contemplate are: first, what is taking place in your mind and heart when you watch the people around you or those that are in the society around you that are caught in the traps, in the nets of immorality? How do you think about them? How do you see them? How do you grow in your ability to have gracious speech that sets people free? The ability to communicate a message of what God's true intention is for them and humanity, what his intention is for their situation, and also empowers them to make the best choice. And in what ways are you seeing the people around you that need support and are caught in a trap? In what ways are you able to and willing to support them and help them as they walk through the difficult times? In the next few segments, you're going to get a lot of solutions that will help you open your eyes. My prayer for you is that you would see them through the eyes that Jesus is the light of life, and that you are the light for them in the earth. I bless you as you continue to pursue your place in this movement.
Oh, Neela, thank you so much. What an incredible message. And as we think about just the first part, that the staggering truth of abortion in the church, we've heard that so many women are in the church, or they at least identify with that Judeo-Christian worldview. And when we know other statistics, like 50% of all women who have ever had an abortion have already had one. And so when we think about that whole idea of recovery and the need for that, and also I loved how she challenged us. Neela, you challenged us to all examine ourselves. How are we thinking about people who are in these situations? And I mean, are we thinking bad thoughts about them? That's not going to help. And I'm so excited for the people who are here with us tonight, because I know each one of you has a heart to heal. You have a heart, you have a passion, you have a desire. Whether or not you are part of the Christian faith or not, you're here, and we are excited that you're here. We love that you are here, and we need you, because there are people from all walks of life, all beliefs, who are in that trap of abortion and the lies that our society is pushing on them right now. And we all want to work together. That's the thing we have in common. We have that common goal together. And so as we continue on, I am excited and honored to introduce more fully again our executive director, Esther Ripplinger, who is going to share a heart-wrenching, very personal story about this very thing, about going into abortion recovery herself. And so let me give you a little bit more background about Esther. Esther started working in 2002 at Oregon Right to Life. And during her very first week of work, she broke free from denial from her own abortion experience and sought healing. After such time, she launched an unprecedented effort in Oregon in which she coordinated a speakers bureau consisting of healed women who testified before the legislature. And in fact, Ripplinger's own testimony was featured at a judiciary committee in Oregon and 2 amicus briefs at the U.S. Supreme Court. Please welcome Esther Ripplinger.
Thanks, Sarah. Yes, I have a personal testimony, and I understand what it's like to have to wait from the time that I want to get healing, and I realize that I need it and I want it, from that time until actually getting the healing. I had to wait for 5 months, and that was very difficult for me. So I'll explain a little bit about that and where we need to be as a society, as a pro-life community, to put compassion into action. So here goes. I want to just briefly describe that it was the year 2002, and I was married, and I had 1 child. I was volunteering in the church praise band for 10 years, and I also led a group of 6th grade girls in a Bible memorization program. It was called Awana. A lot of my friends will know what that is, and that was at church. So here I am in ministry. So this is a side note, real quick, that here I was in ministry, and I'd never heard of pro-life. And the funny thing is, I found myself getting employed at Oregon Right to Life, the leading pro-life organization in the state of Oregon. So I had no idea what they did, and I didn't know anything about a pro-life movement, but I think God brought me there. So it was the first week that I started working there when they had their annual convention, and this was a time that they put on a really good convention, by the way. Every April, please be sure to try to go to that. It was really worth it. So they wanted me to just learn about the pro-life movement, and I chose a workshop in particular that hour, and oddly enough, it was called abortion recovery. What is that? So here I had an abortion when I was 19, complete denial. And I go in there and I sit down, and the speaker comes from a pregnancy center, and she's presenting about their abortion recovery program. And she, passed out the papers, and I looked, and we follow along, and then we turned the page. Things started to heat up. And I read through the list, very, very extensive list about a lot of the symptoms that women have after abortion. And, it was all very interesting until it hit me like a ton of bricks. And this list, there were 2 things that really stood out, that really started to kind of make me panic. And it's all I could do but sit there and try to look normal and not attract attention to myself. And there were 2 things that I'll tell you, for me, that it was, and it's very important to talk about symptoms for this reason, but to have a safety net. And we have some takeaways from that. But let me tell you, the 2 things that I experienced that finally made sense at that moment were that I had monthly cramps, when I had monthly cramps, and it had a trigger to nightmares. Because even though I tried to forget, my body didn't forget the trauma. So pain because of cramps reminded my brain about the pain from abortion. And so that was interesting, because those nightmares continued for years. And so I never made the connection until I heard that. Secondly was that I had struggled with the sound of the abortion machine, and I didn't know why, but I realize now that the sound of the abortion machine really sounds like the sound of a vacuum cleaner. And so for that reason, I experienced extreme anxiety over the vacuum cleaner. So when I read these symptoms, whoa. And it dawned on me all of a sudden, God wants me to heal from this, and that's why I have a job at Oregon Right to Life. What am I going to do? I mean, this was panic. I wanted to scream and run, but God said in that moment, I am with you. You are not alone. Jesus, I trust in you. And he worked me through it. And I sat there the rest of the workshop. And so this was interesting because I understand when we have speaking engagements, there's some things that we can learn to help other women who are hearing us say these things. So that's what happened to me. And a series of events, I ended up talking with the speaker that following Monday on the phone, and she assured me to get me into a program starting on in September, so 5 months later. And I thought, oh man. Now I was in a safe place. I worked at Oregon Right to Life. I was learning about fetal development. I had all these feelings that were stirred. And for me, I had specifically asked that woman at the abortion facility about the baby stage of development. And she assured me it's just a blob of tissue. And she further proceeded to sell me the abortion as a quick and painless routine procedure. And she gestured on her arm like a pinch. You'll be fine. And as I laid on the table, I remember feeling excruciating pain in my most tender part of my body. And I remember saying to myself, they lied to me. So when I'm at Oregon Right to Life learning about fetal development, you can imagine the feelings stirred, but I was in a safe place. These people were loving, etc. But so many women don't have that. And I know that it's very important that we have a network and a team really working together to get a woman or man the help that they need within 30 days as my goal, not months, but days. And to hand them off and give good customer service, and don't just give them a phone number and walk away, right? We really need to cradle these people. So that was my experience, and I speak up for everyone who can experience that as well. So that's what we need to become in the pro-life community, is to present compassion with action and to be skilled at what to say and what not to say. Now, I had a pastor who actually hindered my ability to heal by the callous thing that he said that I perceived, and he may not have realized what he was saying. That's unfortunate. But so many times I hear messages really have the opposite effect that they intend when they go out. So we really have to be careful. Anyway, so that's where I'm coming from. And, thanks be to God, his healing is transformational. And now we have a whole network that we are building here in Washington State. And that's what this webcast is all about. We hope that you will join us and understand more about this in the days and weeks and months to come. So God bless you. Thanks for allowing me to share my story. Back to you, Sarah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that story, Esther. Thank you for sharing your story. It is very important for all of us to be very authentic. That's one of the main things that I know people desire, and especially people who have been hurt by abortion, whether they had one themselves or close family. There are so many. Again, we've talked about how it touches so many different people, not necessarily just the people involved, right? It's so far reaching, and it's a societal problem. And I love, Esther, that your heart and the heart of all of these people, Neela, Kelly, and the others who we are going to hear from. Oh, you guys are going to be so blessed and enriched by the remaining speakers that we have here tonight. And I am so excited to continue on with this program, and I know that you're getting so much out of it. And please feel free to engage us in the live chat. And if you're watching this program after the live portion has ended and this is a replay for you, please reach out, contact us at Human Life of Washington. Our contact info will be right there for you, and we look forward to hearing from you, working with you, helping you, connecting you. We are the first point of contact, and that's our aim. Our purpose is to be the first point of contact, especially for abortion recovery. And so that's the whole idea of this webcast, as Esther was just mentioning. Now I'd like to move on, and we are going to go into the shocking ramifications of our traditional pro-life messages, how they are perceived by people needing healing, and how to bridge with your intended audience. So this is really for you folks who are wanting to go into the front lines, and maybe the front lines even include just a family gathering at one of our upcoming summer barbecues that I hope you're going to have with your friends and family, because you probably know somebody. I mean, the statistics are 1 in 4 women have had an abortion. And so if that's the case, most all of us know someone who's had one. And it's time, if they haven't received the healing that they so deserve, now it's time. And you're going to be ready. You're going to be that person. So, Deborah Tilden, it is my pleasure to welcome Deborah Tilden of SMART Women's Healthcare. And just so you know, SMART stands for Science Matters in Abortion-Related Trauma. Amazing, amazing. Deborah is our keynote speaker for tonight. She is an author, she's an advocate, she's a life coach, and a citizen lobbyist. She has been featured on various radio, TV, and vlog programs. She will often say, "I'm a woman on a mission with a fire in my belly." She co-founded Smart Women's Healthcare in the spring of 2016. She has done extensive citizen lobbying in Washington, D.C., Oregon, and Washington since 2014. Deborah is an Oregon ambassador for Silent No More Awareness. She serves on boards as well. Deborah and her husband live in Central Oregon. She is the mother of 4, her angel baby, and her 3 amazing young adult children. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you. It is awesome to be here. Sarah and Esther, you guys are amazing, and everything you've done here, putting this together. And it's truly an honor to be here. And I just too want to say thank you to everyone who is here attending, and that you are prioritizing and making time in your schedule to join this vital conversation to help bridge the gaps in our world today regarding abortion, pro-life narratives that help those suffering in silence find healing and restoration after making one of the most life-altering decisions one can make in their life, like I did myself. But before I jump into sharing a little bit my story and what I do, I just want to really first honor the pioneers that Esther talked about, and Sarah, of the past in the pro-life movement, and those who we are partnering with now for future breakthroughs that so many of us, I know I have, and you guys have too, praying for and hoping for, to see abortion as unthinkable. And for those like myself, finding healing through a path towards wholeness and restoration. Like Sarah said, Smart Women's Healthcare stands for Science Matters in Abortion-Related Trauma. You know, we do have the truth and science on our side, which is being pushed aside and really silenced in many ways. It's a real battle out there. And like Sarah mentioned, we co-founded Smart Women's Healthcare in the spring of 2016 with my dear friend Esther Ripplinger. It was something we just saw was needed, and it came about out of, many of you know, the David Daleiden story and the undercover research that they were doing at the Planned Parenthood events. And we were seeing a trend with, and even ourselves who had been leading abortion healing recovery groups were really being triggered by some of these, just the graphic wording and what was being put out there. Because when we go through our healing from our abortions, we don't, we use the greater understanding of human development, of where our children were before our abortions in their stage of development, not graphic descriptions or pictures. So it really, we just knew we had to do something. So really, that's when Smart Women's Healthcare was birthed. And our mission is to forge a science-based, holistic framework of women's healthcare programs and partnerships, impacting education and public policy. Those are really the two areas that we focus on. I also do lead abortion, healing, and recovery. But one of the things we don't talk a lot about is abortion is a relational decision. It's a parenting decision. And so it's asking ourselves, what kind of parent am I going to be from the beginning of finding out, some of the misconceptions within the abortion industry, Planned Parenthood. You are a parent when you're pregnant. So we need to be asking those questions of what kind of a parent and pattern of parenting we are going to start. This was something that came very late. It's like a revelation that came late in my own healing journey of the parenting practices and the way that that journey began as a parent. And abortion tragically impacts not only the child in the womb, but the mother, father, marriages, families, and society as a whole. It's a destructive fracturing of one's soul at the core of our being. God never intended us to be making these kinds of decisions. And I want to step back in time a little bit. You heard bits and pieces of my story from Sarah, but I want to focus a bit on how Esther and I met, actually. In July of 2005, my family and I moved back to Oregon after leaving Oregon 7 years prior. And those 7 years were my redemption years, truly. I get emotional when I think about it. But I remember how traumatized I was actually leaving Oregon in the first place. I was leaving my entire family and everything I knew from childhood. And we were moving to Nevada in 1998, and then we moved to California in 2002. And this was for my husband's job and with our 3 children. And through God's providential hand and many, many divine appointments. Never underestimate the divine appointments God gives you in your life, all around you. Esther is that, Sarah is that, Pam is that, so many people. Our special guest tonight is that. But little did I know the who, what, when, where, why, and how God was going to lead me into and through my abortion, healing, and recovery. And I had no idea I even needed it at the time. I had no idea. It was not on my radar at all. I had pushed that part of my life so deep into the core of my being. And, Esther mentioned that too when she shared her story. I was truly in denial. And so despite the fact that we were involved, and during these years of being involved and leading in church ministries, the issue of abortion was never discussed. The only thing I really ever heard, and I heard it time and time again, which drove me deeper, was that I was a murderer. Yes, I was. But in my fractured brokenness, one of the reasons I get so emotional still is because of all those women out there that are still hearing those same things I was hearing that just drove me deeper and deeper into my silence. So again, those words drove me deeper into my silent suffering. I honestly do not know where my life would be today if I had not come to terms with my own abortion, its impact on my life as a woman, a wife, and a mother. The acknowledgement of that uninformed choice and the ending of one's own life is that vital first step, that acknowledging of it. But we need to create safe spaces for women to do that. God put many people like Esther in my life during those 7 years while I was away from Oregon. It's amazing at how he just knew through pregnancy resource centers, abortion, healing, and recovery programs and retreats, and then leading several recovery programs myself. God brought us back to Oregon in 2005. And this is where I met Esther. I wrote a letter to the editor in response to an article in the Christian News Northwest newspaper. Many of you may be familiar with that. And the article was attacking the Oregon Right to Life executive director, Gail Atterbury. Some of you may know her for being too soft on abortion in the legislative, the lobbying process. From my newly healed perspective, I noticed something. I just noticed so much judgment and condemnation in this article and casting of stones on women any woman who had ever had an abortion. They were murderers. And that was being communicated in this message, and that Gail Atterbury was not strong enough. So my response in this letter to the editor focused a bit on my own story. I start with that whenever I lobby in any way, I share my story first. My recent healing from my own abortion, and how we need to remember how many women are suffering in silence from their own abortion decisions. We need to be a bridge over those troubled waters. I included my email and phone number, and at the end of the letter. So if anybody wanted to find out any information about a healing program from their abortion, they could reach out. And Esther was one of those people who reached out to me. She was one of those safe people during that time, even though I had gone through profound healing and restoration. For anyone who's had one, it is a long journey. It's a profound journey that just continues. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. And anyone who's, worked with onions, you cry a lot. And that has been a big part of the journey. So she was one of those safe people that God brought alongside me as I continued my journey back to wholeness that God intended me from the start. She was doing a woman-to-woman show. I was terrified. I was a deer in the headlights. She knew it. I mean, she was just such a mentor, and just gently coached me through everything, and just was just amazing on all of that. And then I was invited into that speakers bureau that Esther and Sarah both talked about. And I just want to say that we must understand the power of our words. We need to be bridge builders, not bridge burners. We need messages of compassionate care, compassion with action, like what Esther said. So over the years since my own healing, I've reflected on a lot of things. Several things stand out regarding the 11 years of never talking about my abortion, while living out some very destructive behaviors, health issues, marriage issues. A lot of people don't realize that 80% of couples who choose abortion end up in divorce. 80%. The statistics are incredibly high. My husband and I, we just had our 40th anniversary. We chose abortion together. We are truly a God story. And it was really through, I think, finding that healing 11 years in, just to little sparks of hope. Even though we never talked about that day until 23 years after our abortion, which the abortion was in 1980. And because the church was silent and or condemning and judgmental, my first healing encounter at a Beauty for Ashes retreat at Church on the Way in Van Nuys, California, the first weekend when I walked through that is just so vivid in my mind. But that was nearly 20 years after my abortion. I don't want to see women waiting that long and dealing with so many of the secondary issues that come along after that because of that wounding. So, folks, that is way too long for women to suffer in silence, especially in the church. We need to be creating safe spaces, listen with compassion, building bridges and not burning them, and working to be the change that God wants to see in the world. There is beauty and unity in this work. We have seen so many, used to be really a silo mentality that was going on for a long, long time, that we've been praying for those walls to come down and to God to just move in and bring unity. And that is what we truly see happening. And it's so exciting to see. And when I go back to 2016, Esther and I went to Washington, D.C. And that leads me into one of the most powerful divine appointments I believe God gave us during some of our legislative times. And I will never forget this time in this meeting that we had with our next guest, Congressman Trent Franks. We met with him. This man, you often don't always get a meeting actually with the congressman, but Congressman Trent Franks he spent probably an hour with us. He prayed with us and just listened to our stories. So caring and so compassionate. And one of the things that he said as we were leaving, was, when more women like you that come forward and find healing from their abortions, that is when we are going to start seeing a significant change in the culture of life in our work today. And so I just want to take the time. Congressman Franks served in Congress for the 8th District of Arizona from 2003 to 2017. And I'm going to hand it off to Sarah and let her do a little bit more of an introduction for Congressman Trent Franks. Welcome, sir. We are so delighted to have you.
Thank you, Deb. Yes, Congressman Trent Franks is our surprise speaker that we have for you tonight. So, surprise! And we're so excited that he gets to join us. He's going to be joining us over phone, so it might look a little different for everyone in the audience, but we're so thankful that you're taking the time with us tonight, Congressman, and we know that you have some great encouragement and edification for people as they listen tonight.
Well, listen, it's just a sweet, precious honor for me to be with all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right. I first want to just thank Esther and Deborah for their long-term commitment to this. I think this is a beautiful thing that all of you are doing. And I just can't really tell you how deeply I believe that the foundational backbone, the foundational bedrock of the pro-life movement is people like yourselves. I think there are no more powerful testimonies anywhere than women who've gone through abortions themselves. Their testimony is unimpeachable. No one can look in them in the eye and say, well, you're a man, you don't know. I certainly have dealt with that many, many times. And the only response I could have is that there was a time when men in this country wanted to protect women and children, and that time should never pass. So let me just say with all of my heart how deeply I'm privileged to be among all of you, because I truly believe that your prayers are the ones that God is going to answer in the most profound way. I don't want to talk about myself. I'll just say to you that I ran for the legislature when I was 26 years old, and I'm in my 60s now, and I don't know how that happened. But the life issue was the preeminent issue in my life, without a doubt, because I simply believe that if we don't have the courage to protect the most innocent among us and their mothers, then essentially we'll never have the courage to protect any kind of liberty for anyone, or anyone's rights. That is as foundational as it gets. Abortion is one of those issues that seems to be such a double standard that everybody apply to it. You know, we see tragedies on the news at night where one child is killed, and that is a tragedy that absolutely supersedes nearly all others. But sometimes we are blind to the fact that thousands of children, before they're born, in the most innocent places of life, these are children that are tragedies 2,000 and 3,000 times every day in America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. So I guess my focus here tonight should be on a little bit of what the legislative and public policy implications are. But please don't forget that I deeply hold what all of you do as the foundation of this movement. And I believe that your prayers and your actions are what precipitated the movement to the extent that it has come. So let me just say to you that I believe that we're the ones that have the momentum this time. I study physics, and if you take a car that's sitting still and hit it with another car, sometimes the first car that's traveling will stop and the second car will continue on. That momentum is very, very significant. And it was unfortunate in 1973 and years prior that the pro-abortion perspective had a lot of momentum. We just didn't really see them coming like we should have. Now, of course, there was a few, like some of you, that did see it coming and started this cause so much even earlier than that. But the truth is, most of the world didn't see Roe versus Wade coming. They couldn't contemplate that the United States Supreme Court would simply say that the womb is free fire zone and there's no protection for the most innocent of all human beings. So I want to say to you that I believe the winds have changed and that the cause now is a momentum on our side. In spite of the election that some people might count as being counter to that, I'm convinced that because of the Supreme Court, because God bless Donald Trump, I realize he is not someone who speaks diplomat at all, but he has appointed people to the Supreme Court that look like they're going to be strong in the long run for us. And I really believe that's going to happen. With the new Mississippi case coming up on the 15-week case, I believe, I'll predict here tonight, that the Supreme Court's going to uphold that law. And that's going to blow a significant hole in Roe versus Wade. It won't fundamentally vitiate it completely, because most abortions are done before 15 weeks. But it will have a significant impact. And once we can say that you can protect a child at 15 weeks, then the question occurs, why can't we protect them at an earlier time? I'd also add that it's important that we continue to do all the things that we can on many different fronts on other cases to get to the Supreme Court, because this case will probably not do all that we need it to do. And I'm a little afraid that the court might say, well, okay, 15 weeks is the magic number. Now, hopefully they won't. You got Clarence Thomas and people like that on the court that will certainly embarrass those who would take that tack, but it's not clear. They may leave it ambiguous before 15 weeks and make a solid line that at least the state can protect the child at 15 weeks. Now, the tack that I took in the United States Congress, we introduced 3 bills. And those bills spawned a lot of these state bills. In fact, the 20-week ban that I did in Congress may have had a significant impact on the 15-week ban that's going to the Supreme Court. Also, and that ban was called the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, because we know the child feels pain, and somehow there's a poignancy in that reaches even sometimes the most cruel or unfeeling of heart. And the second bill was the Born Alive bill. That was extremely powerful because it had enormous impact on abortion, but people didn't realize it. The Born Alive bill simply said if the child is born alive after being someone attempting to abort the child, that child would be then protected by law, just as if they had been born any other time. And Barack Obama, I remember he said, this is bad because this can affect abortion. Because if you say like a 5 or 6 month baby that's born alive, if you say that child is protectable, then it's hard for them to make the case that a 7 or 8 month baby in the womb is not protectable. So, I want to be cautious and not be too political here, but I was profoundly stunned by the lack of humanity of Mr. Obama and now Mr. Biden. Mr. Biden, both of these men had suggested at one time that they were of a different persuasion, especially Joe Biden, and then to really sell out the unborn for political expediency. I think that's the antithesis of statesmanship, to put it mildly. But the final bill that I introduced was, and all of these bills incidentally passed the House of Representatives, the United States House of Representatives, but they couldn't get to the floor of the Congress because of the 60-vote rule. And the final bill was the PRENDA, the Prenatal Non-Discrimination Act. I believe that bill will have a very prominent place in history. It's already been to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did not hear it because they said that it needed another state to bring the case. they understood the implications of it. It simply says that you cannot abort a child, or you cannot discriminate against a child that's unborn by subjecting them to an abortion based on their race or sex. Now, almost everyone would say that that's a good policy. But you see, if it's wrong to discriminate against an unborn child, then you have to ask yourself, can there be discrimination without personhood? If there can't be discrimination without personhood? And that affects the case throughout the entire pregnancy, whereas the 15 weeks would do part of it. So my hope is that the 15-week bill will be upheld. The court has narrowly asked that single question. They've said that they're not going to answer any other question. We'll see. But if they uphold that, and then Prenda comes along, and there are several Prenda bills that have been passed in the different states now. They were spawned by the one we did in the U.S. Congress. If those bills come forward, I believe the Supreme Court will have a very difficult time striking those down, saying, no, it's all right to kill a child because he's the wrong color or she's the wrong sex. I think it's impossible for the court to do that and not go down in history as a worse example than Dred Scott. But if they uphold it, then they have completely undermined Roe versus Wade entirely, because the real issue here is the personhood of the child. I will just tell you, if abortion didn't kill a baby, then I think all of us are, we're wasting our time. If there was no child, then it wouldn't matter. But the fact that there is a child changes everything. None of us are against women. None of us are against mothers that fight this conundrum that is beyond the comprehension of most of us. But there's a child involved, and that is an unescapable fact. And I think that mothers that abort their children oftentimes suffer far more than the child did. And so there's nothing in my heart but a commitment and a compassion to the mother and for the mother. And I just remind everyone, that half of all unborn children are little tiny women. And if we're really truly pro-women, there are better ways to help them than taking the lives of their children. And there's nothing liberating about taking the life of your own child. We've heard that testimony tonight. So I don't want to take more time than I'm allotted here. I frankly didn't know exactly how much time I was allotted. But let me just say to you that I think that these are days that we should be encouraged, in spite of all of the difficulties and in spite of all the seeming darkness that we face. I remember they said that Winston Churchill said something to this effect when the Nazis were dropping bombs on London night after night. He said, "These are not dark days. These are great days. For God in his mercy has seen fit to allow you and me in this time to show the rest of the world for all time what it truly means to be an Englishman." And I think that these are times now that we might be under great stress and duress, but somehow I believe that this is a season where we're going to see the winds of change begin to blow, and that the Supreme Court is going to uphold this case in Mississippi, and that's going to open the door in time for other bills to be upheld. And I have significant involvement, I'm going to leave it at that, with a case in Alabama that is designed to do that as well. So I would just want to say to you, God bless you. God bless your work. You know that probably the most poignant part of the Bible related to abortion, it's not directly related, but it applies so specifically. When Jesus said, "Inasmuch as you've done it unto the one of the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me." And I want you to know that goes two ways, not only to those who would take money to take the lives of children, but also to people like yourselves that would do everything you could to protect these little babies. It's like protecting the Christ child himself. And your efforts will not be forgotten. Only eternity will discover your impact. And I wish you Godspeed. Keep the children in your heart and charge the gates.
Oh, thank you so much, Congressman. That was an incredible admonition. It was incredible encouragement. And I love that you actually brought in one of the other prongs of Human Life of Washington. We have an incredible and very significant reach in the public policy arena as well. And you have also shown too that there's a multifaceted, it's a multifaceted thing that we're dealing with here, right? It's many different fronts. We have the public policy side, which is very important, and then we are talking about the relational side, the individual side, the healing that needs to happen on all levels, right? In order to see a real change happen. And that's what we're trying to do, especially with this. We're showing you so many different ways that we in the pro-life movement are changing and evolving and really grasping a hold of our mission.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, God bless you all.
Bless you too.
Thank you, Congressman Trent. We are just absolutely honored to have you. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we will continue on with our incredible lineup of speakers. And Deb, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I call her Deb. I introduced you as Deborah, but I call you Deb. You are Deb to me. But I just wanted to thank you so much for encouraging us. And I hope opening people's eyes to what a lot of that traditional pro-life messaging does to people, like how it's received, because so many times, you know, if you're, I know you've been in this situation many times, so have I, where we're on the steps, we're maybe at a March for Life rally or something like that, and you see the big signs, and some of the wording is pretty harsh. Some of it's not, actually, a lot of it's not. A lot of it's very edifying and very encouraging and loving. But yeah, when you helped us to understand how it's received by someone who has gone through an abortion, and yet here we are saying that we're compassionate, saying that we want healing, and yet we're saying words that are continuing to encourage her to suffer in silence.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much for that. And I wanted to continue on here with the lineup of what we have for you. We have so many different resources, and Deb talked about this. Esther has mentioned this. Kelly and Neela, we have talked about the different programs, and Deb mentioned that we used to work in little silos, right? We all had our own little thing that we were doing, and never the twain shall meet, right? We didn't work together. Well, those days are gone, and we are wanting to bring it all together because all of us are part of this new pro-life movement, and we are absolutely one powerful voice uniting for life. And that's Esther's favorite phrase, and that's what defines Human Life of Washington. And so we partner with lots and lots of different programs like 40 Days for Life, Sidewalk Advocates, the Church of Planned Parenthood, Save One, Support After Abortion, Lifeway, CareNet, Pregnancy Resource Centers. There are so many more. And again, we at Human Life of Washington want to be that great connector for you, just on all these different resources, the first point of contact. So again, as we continue to build this network, I want to take you into the next part of the program, where we talk about, you're going to learn about how to leverage life-affirming resources, and also how to maximize your activity. 3 ways to maximize your activity. So I'm pleased to introduce Lori Kuykendall. She is the founder and executive director of the Western Washington Coalition for Life. She leads the Bremerton 40 Days for Life 365 program, along with Sidewalk Advocates for Life in front of Planned Parenthood in Bremerton. She's known many women and men who have confessed to their abortions, and she helps to direct them to resources for healing and hope with on-site ministries and many different programs. In her spare time, she is the wife of 50 years of her husband, Gary. She's the mother of 3 grown children and the grandmother of 3 with a 4th on the way. More information, again, is available at wwcfl.org. And I would just like to welcome Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Kuykendall, the founder and executive director of the Western Washington Coalition for Life. Esther and I have worked together, and we have the same heart, and that is for unity in all pro-life activities and organizations. And beginning as a 40 Days for Life leader, it became very evident that being a part of a unified national effort to tried to end abortion had huge advantages, including not reinventing the wheel, access to many more resources for all aspects of the pro-life movement, technical and media assistance, and for practical ways to maximize our local activities. The successes of closing abortion facilities in Memphis, Tennessee, and San Antonio, Texas, through Coalitions for Life, inspired the formation of our Western Washington Coalition for Life in the summer of 2019. To maximize pro-life activity and its effects on helping to end abortion, the number one way is to rely on the providence of God, to try to do his will in all things, with prayer and fasting the basis for all that we do. The pro-life Kitsap organization that began the first 40 Days for Life vigil was in 2005. And it was a third in the country before the 40 Days for Life became a national and international organization. We joined Sidewalk Advocates for Life about 5 years ago to increase our interaction with the patrons here. While learning and growing with these national organizations, we realized that a coalition was needed to help unify our local efforts and to increase awareness of nationwide resources and activities to help us end abortion, beginning here in our city. Through prayer and awareness of the Holy Spirit working in us to guide and to teach us, there was a miracle in February of 2020 when the Lord allowed WWCFL to raise enough money in 6.5 hours to buy the house across the street from the local Planned Parenthood facility, which was a wish we had had for many years, especially because we needed a bathroom. It was close by. We have evidence now that we are doing God's will here. The second thing that we can do is to reach out to all of those who are also pro-life through churches, pregnancy resource centers, and other nonprofit organizations like our own Western Washington Coalition for Life, in order to expand the local base of resources, sources of information, email lists, and other means of communication and media. If we look at the amount of disinformation that's being taught in our schools, universities, and even in some churches, we need to band together to disseminate truth, to counteract these lies, both about abortion itself and about the awful effects that abortion has on girls, women, men, families, abortion workers, and even their friends. We need to counteract the lies that abortion fixes a crisis pregnancy that is literally only for 9 months or less, and to provide real resources to help a person or a couple make real choices that are the best for themselves and their preborn children. The truth about the infinite mercy of God does not now resonate in church halls and is totally lacking in public educational settings and the mainstream media, but much of what is withheld because of fear of reprisal or pure ignorance. Pro-life media outlets, pro-life law firms, and of course, pro-life organizations, and especially including Human Life of Washington, can give you the news, legislative information, real-time statistics, and the truth about pro-life efforts that we are winning as we speak tonight. The third way is to unify our actions and our efforts through learning and utilizing all the tips and strategies that we know will work to help those who are affected by abortion, even if they deny that they're having any effect on them at this time. Most abortion workers are victims of abortion themselves. An organization like Abby Johnson's and Then There Were None, Silent No More, and Support After Abortion need to be shared as soon as possible to all victims. The life-affirming alternatives to the abortion facilities are found in organizations such as Rachel's Vineyard, pregnancy resource centers, women's health centers that do not refer or perform abortions, and other church-centered groups that can help maternity needs, free pregnancy testings and ultrasounds, after-abortion care and healing retreats, and a place where education about the truth that we are all human beings from the moment of fertilization. Can you share this truth through social media? Can you share over coffee? Can you share through Bible studies and small groups? Can you attend a pro-life conference, webinar, or fundraiser for a pregnancy resource center or pro-life group that will help you to be equipped to share the truth? We do know that truth will set us free, and even discussing and praying about those who are unsure of how we feel about abortion is what we as individuals are called to do. And the results can be like a ripple across the country, across Washington, and across the world. Let us not leave here tonight without the resolve to pray for guidance and hope, and then tomorrow to share truth and love with someone whom the Spirit will send you. You will find resources both on our website and at Human Life of Washington. So please look up these things and you will be able to share them and share the truth. God bless you all, and good night.
Thank you so much, Lori. That is so encouraging to know, what we can do, because so many of us always ask ourselves when we are presented with a need, especially like what we heard in the very beginning from Kelly. Let's go back to the very beginning. We heard that there is a shortage in Washington State for abortion recovery healers. There's a shortage. And so speeding up to what we just heard from Lori, all the different resources that we heard, how can we at least connect someone with these resources? Hey, you can just remember, go to Human Life of Washington, humanlifewa.org. That's where we need to go. The resources are all right there. We are updating and adding to them constantly, and I wouldn't be surprised if we add even more after our webcast tonight. So moving on through the program, I know you are being so encouraged and educated and edified as we go through this. I wanted to bring back on Esther, because I told you in the beginning that she had a big surprise. Esther, what is the big surprise? What's the announcement?
Well, we now have a coordinator for the Hispanic outreach, and I am delighted to introduce to you a dear friend. And we've been working on some projects already, and I'll let Sarah just go into detail about her background. But you get to meet a wonderful gal today. She is just equal to the task to reach out to the Hispanic population. And we know that at least one of the pregnancy centers in the Seattle area, as a matter of fact, boasts that 44% of their clients are Hispanic. So there is a huge need, and oddly enough, in King County. So we would think, Eastern Washington or something maybe, but really there's a need right on our doorstep in many cases. So please, without further ado, I'll let you introduce to you to our very special new person in our company. Thanks.
All right, Pamela Morales. Yay! Welcome, Pamela. Pamela, she is an incredibly well-equipped young woman after God's own heart. I can just tell you that. Pamela is a law graduate from the Sacred Heart Women's University in Lima, Peru. She has a postgraduate degree in labor law and labor procedure from the Garcilaso de la Vega University in Lima, Peru, and a master's degree in business law from the Universidad Pontificia Católica del Perú. She has practiced in the legal area for 7 years in Lima, Peru, starting as a legal practitioner, then a legal assistant, and finally as a lawyer specialized in the labor and business area. During her university studies, she participated as a volunteer in different social programs developed by non-government, nonprofit organizations, providing legal support to people in extreme poverty. In 2013, she moved to Seattle, where she successfully made her way into the women's clothing and accessory industry. Simple Life Seattle, one of our sponsors, by the way, without losing her will to continue helping the most vulnerable people in her community. And as Esther said, she is a very, very, very welcomed and effective tool in our abortion recovery efforts and working with Save One. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you, Sarah, for introducing me. I want to thank God for permitting me to be part of this wonderful event, and also for being part of Human Life Washington. Human Lives was the organization that opened the door for me to give my testimony of what the abortion means. I want to share with all of you. I had an abortion. It's not easy to say, but it's true. Thanks to this negative painful experience in my life, I can say from the most profound deep of my heart that abortion hurt women's, and also abortion kill babies. Abortion has a deep ripples effect. The feeling of pain, the feeling of guilt took me a long time to heal, but finally I did. Finally I could. Thanks to God, thanks to His work in my life. Now I find myself in the position of helping other women who has passed for through the same situation than me, especially Hispanic women. Most people will be surprised to learn that almost 40% of clients at pregnancy centers are Hispanic. Now we will be able to serve pregnancy centers, especially because I will leading abortion recovery healing groups online through the Safe One program. I am feeling exciting because there are many women here outside now dealing with the pain abortion has left them. So I am happy to deal in this program because we can help them recover after abortion. We can help by working with them through this program, through Bible studies. Especially, and for me, the most important thing is we can help them to overcome issues of forgiveness, anger, wrong thoughts. So I am happy to be part in this project. I want to say I feel delighted to work with Esther because we share the same passion and vision for connecting Human Life Washington with the Hispanic community. So thank you for listening me. God bless you, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Pamela. Oops, am I listening? Okay, I thought the mic was muted. Thank you, Pamela. You know, you're a delight and you shine, and God has just transformed you, and you will be a blessing to other people as they understand that you have understood and walked through that pain. So thank you for saying yes to God, and thank you for saying yes.
Thank you to you to trust me for be part in this project. I am very, very happy.
And you know, I wanted to point out too that as we are providing this opportunity through Save One, which is a nice turnkey operation. Kelly Bilko at CareNet earlier, you heard her say that it's not necessarily true that you must have gone through an abortion to understand and to be a facilitator. That was an old myth, but it helps to have someone who wants to have a heart to heal. That was mentioned earlier too. Someone with a heart to heal who understands pain and has worked through a lot of traumas. That program is designed for you, and we'd love to talk about that with you at greater length as we go into this new department that I was mentioning with greater intensity. Because now here we are at 62 million abortions later, and this is our 50th year anniversary. And remember, abortion was legalized in Washington State before Roe v. Wade, a couple of years now. And so a couple of years before Roe v. Wade, I should say. So 62 million abortions later, we, like you said, there's a ripple effect, and we do need to address that people need healing. And imagine, look at the women who have shared their stories today and the transformation that's possible in the pro-life movement. We now have so many voices who are healed and passionate to want to be those advocates, the voice for the voiceless for those women. And so we've demonstrated that there is healing available now in Washington State. So we are going to be augmenting the programs that are already existing, and there is a shortage of facilitators, but the more, it's twofold. The more we raise awareness that there is healing available, the more that people will understand where to go. And Human Life of Washington is often the first point of contact. So as we funnel these things, if it's not available where we can get somebody healed within days, we can offer opportunity to get them healed right away and not have to wait months. So we're going to augment. We're here not to be in competition, but to serve and support the pregnancy centers. And together we are one powerful voice uniting for life. One of the ways that we connect, which is a really cool app on the cell phone through Voxer. A lot of us on the pregnancy center circuit can actually call the hotline, and it's like a walkie-talkie. We have this app called Voxer, and we're like, hey, Kelly, can you get somebody in right away, or should I have to have somebody wait for months to get them healing? No, wait, I can take them now, right on. So this is an instant way that we can be connected, and it has a kind of an annoying beep sound, but hey, it's a hotline, kind of like the bat phone. So I love it. We're getting connected, and this is exciting. And so to be able to offer this in Spanish is really just one other level of one powerful voice uniting for life. So God bless you, Pamela. Thank you for joining us with that. And I'll tell you, your boutique is absolutely fabulous and beautiful.
Thank you.
And if ever anybody wants to go to simplelifeseattle.com, you will be in for a treat. And who doesn't want to support pro-life
right now? So
wonderful. So that's our big surprise. And God is blessing us through Pamela, through Sarah. When we first met, long story later, but Deborah Tilden, all these stories, Kelly, these connections that we're making, Lori Kuykendall, she picked up the phone and said, we have the same heart. How can we partner? And this is how, we are becoming, actually, we're going to flip Washington to be a pro-life state. How about that? And nothing is impossible with God. So that's right. So thank you so much, Pamela, for joining us on that. And stick around. But Sarah, take it away. Back to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Pamela, and thank you, Esther. And I hope that every one of you who are watching this tonight, either on the live webcast or if you're watching it maybe just a little bit later as a rerun, this is an incredible movement that is happening. And isn't it interesting that Washington was the first to issue in abortion, to make it legal in the state, and now see what's happening, see the movement, the building that's happening in Washington state to really flip the tide. And you might think, just because you hear what's played on the news, you see what's on your TV, that nobody cares about pro-life anymore, that maybe the movement is dying. That's not true. Normally, those who are trying to make you believe a lie shout louder and louder the more that the truth is actually coming and combating that lie and actually winning. The truth always wins. The truth always wins. And the truth is that abortion hurts everyone. Every single person at every single level. It hurts everyone. And that's why we need to heal. We need to heal. We need to reach out. We need to be that person. We need to be that person who simply at least says, hey, I know you may have experienced abortion in your life. You just shared that with me. I want to hook you up with this great resource. I may not know exactly what to do, but I am here for you. I'm willing to be a support for you. At least get them hooked up. And like Esther said, like Deb said, and all the different people who we're working with here, We are not willing that anyone should have to wait to get healed, because a healed person, as you have witnessed on this webcast tonight, is a powerful tool that fights against abortion. We have important things happening at the Supreme Court level and in state policies. However, it is equally, if not more important, to heal the people who have gone through abortion and to make them, to encourage them, give them a platform to speak and say, wait, this is not the way you have to go. You don't have to do it this way. I have a wonderful, wonderful person who I know. He actually is a legislator in the state of Washington, and he says something like this: abortion is simply a way, it's a lie. It's a lie, and it's a way that people like to solve a 9-month problem, but they end up creating a lifelong problem. So a 9-month problem for a lifelong problem. That doesn't work out, folks. And so that's why we need to continue on and do what we're doing here, expand the abortion recovery movement. And Human Life of Washington is, again, pioneering that very thing. And now we're coming to the end of our webcast. Thank you so much for staying with us through this whole thing. And we would encourage you to help us. And you might say, well, I don't know if I'm ready to be a healer yet. Or maybe you are and you're like, but I also want to do more. Well, I'm giving you another opportunity to partner with us to become a stakeholder in abortion recovery, okay? We're asking you to consider a generous one-time gift. We would love for you to do that. You can go to the website on our event page, and there's a donation button. And we'd also like you to consider signing up for a monthly commitment, because those are very sustaining for nonprofits like HLW to have that guaranteed monthly commitment coming in. It doesn't have to be much, but we'd like you to prayerfully consider both of these. And we just thank you so much for joining us today. And I'd like to bring on Esther back on to do the final wrap up and to do the farewell. Go ahead, Esther.
Well, it just touches my heart more than words can say. And the hard work that we've done and traveling around the state, talking to different ones, again, who were there when we first started. And many of them remember what it was like. And my heart goes out to these pioneers, these veterans of the pro-life movement, who I personally owe my debt of gratitude to for just doing the right thing because it was right, not because of the outcome necessarily. And I know that it's a really tiresome work to get involved in that and just stick with it for 5 decades. But many of our dear friends and supporters have. And I pray over every gift. I'll never forget, and I'll just share this from my heart too. When I worked at Oregon Right to Life, and I just started there in 2002, and I helped with different the administrative and checks that came in, I'll never forget this. It just makes me choke up a little bit. This woman, you could tell she had a stroke. She's probably, an elderly lady. Her hand was so scribbly on this check, and it probably was $5. And then, she signed it, and she wrote on there that I wish it could be more. I'm like, oh, and I'm praying over this woman who I've never met before, who God knows her heart. And you know what? I get those checks even today. And I said, that's who I work for. I want to partner with people who have a heart to stand up for human life, because it's the right thing to do and not because of the outcome. But the good news is that, Marjorie Denenfelser from the Susan B. Anthony list, she wrote a book called Pro-Life is Winning, or actually it's called Life is Winning. And I have that book in my office in Spokane. We have a new office in Spokane, by the way. It's actually through Regis, and Regis has offices all over the country. Of course, I only care about the ones in Washington State, but we But Regis has office spaces in all over Washington. So there's 26 different ones. So I often go to the Spokane office. I can go to the Federal Way office where our administrative checks come in and so on. And you can see I'm in my home office right now. So I'm all over the state talking to everyone. And I love that we indeed are becoming one powerful voice uniting for life. And that this excitement, the idea that just what Sarah, you were telling people is that, it's easy to get discouraged. Boy, you can't stay on Facebook for 5 minutes before getting, needing to detox. And I would just ask if you would want to be on our email list, you'll be encouraged, much like you are now. And you can send your request to info@humanlifewa.org. And, you'll get our updates. And we don't bombard you, by the way. We are very strategic about the less is more, but we want to make sure that people are connected, just as Lori recommended. And we want to make sure that if people have access to all the parts of the pro-life movement. Because why? Because it all works together. And Sarah,
Right.
we tell you all this all the time. We are the first point of contact to people who wanting to be involved in the pro-life movement, much for the first time. Maybe they heard Governor Cuomo signed the bill into law that legalizes infanticide, and they'll be stirred for a lot of reasons and with good reason. And, I'll talk to them on the phone and I'll realize, I've been there where you are. I know the frustration, and we will train them, plug them in where they can best fit. And we will, I have a special ear for things. And as Deborah Tilden was describing, I can identify because I've been there. If they need healing, I can help with that. Yeah. And so the beauty of this entity that's been involved, as the main hub of pro-life in this Washington state, is that for 50 years, we were basically first on the scene. We were pioneers then, pioneers now. So people will find us and we will help them get involved with other organizations, not us, because we don't care who takes the credit for anything. We want to put people where God has equipped them to be. And that is the most important thing. And that God makes that grow. So, we're looking for investors who see the value of what Human Life of Washington brings, not only with the public policy and lobbying, because Sarah's our lobbyist and she's awesome with relationships. I've gone to offices with her. By the way, I'm talking to everybody else. I've gone to offices with her, and she'll just talk to these legislators like they're her friends. And, they pick up on that. You know what? Thank you, Sarah, for asking me how you can pray for me. I'll tell you, it's tough here. Can I tell you about that? Oh, Sarah has a gift. She is in the gifting where God has her. And, we met in another story because I was working for our pro-life champion, Senator Mike Patton, and she just shined. And God put it on my heart that we needed to pray right there in that hallway one day. And Sarah, would you work for Human Life of Washington? Would you do that for me? And we just felt it. We knew it was the right thing to do. And we're just going with what God says. If God's putting it on your heart right now to partner with us, then that's all we ask. So we're just giving you this opportunity. And I just want to say that your gift is heartfelt and you are in my daily prayers, even right now as you're contemplating starting with us. If it's $5, I want people who have a heart to be with us, right? That's the idea here. So God guides and he provides. So God bless you for everything that you've heard here. If you have any questions, email me directly at esther@humanlifewa.org. Esther is ESTHER at humanlifewa.org. So with that's really all I have to say. You've been a wonderful group to be here today. And I'm speaking to everyone individually. God bless you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye. Thank you.